Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCready.
Another Republican is ready to vote to legalize. 5 highest paying jobs in the cannabis industry. Jay's going to tell you about those and how to find one. And some cops allegedly were smoking seized weed while on duty. What? Go figure.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to all of those items and so much more. But first, folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, and, we've got our YouTube presence, and if you're seeing this, obviously you know that. If you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified when we release each new episode. That way you'll never miss a jam-packed, action-packed episode of Vote Pro Podcast ever. And if you're listening, if you're only listening to the audio podcast, and I say only, just, as opposed to not video, if you're listening to the audio podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. If you have a moment, it sure would help us out. And, you can tell us how much you love us as much as we love you. And that's just a fact.
Aww.
So
I'm touched, man.
So, yeah, well, that's, from the heart, baby. From the heart. But the first thing I want to start with is a story that is coming up. This is something that's coming up for a House vote, and it's a legalization bill, and I think you were going to want to know what it is and what it's about. It's called the More.
Tell us more.
I will tell you more, and I will tell you about more. It's the Marijuana Opportunity, Reinvestment, and Expungement Act.
That's a mouthful right there.
It is, and it's called the MORE Act, and it is set for a vote next week. I think it's going to pass, and we just found out that this week another Republican, now 3 Republicans, are set to vote yes on this very important bill. The latest one to say he's going to vote for the MORE Act is Alaska Representative Republican Don Young. And he's going to join fellow Republicans Tom McClintock of California and Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is one of the co-authors on the bill. So, Don Young is also co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. Now, up to a couple of weeks ago, I didn't even know that such a thing existed. And I think that's progress right there, that there is such a thing as the Congressional Cannabis Caucus.
Wow,
so,
that is a big deal. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that 20 years ago? Right.
That means legalization is a thing.
That's right.
Officially.
You wouldn't have seen it 10 years ago.
No.
Phil, so how many, you got 435 representatives in Congress.
Right.
And how many Republicans are total signed up now that they're going to vote positive on this?
Only those 3, Don Young, Tom McClintock, and Matt Gaetz, have come out in favor of the bill. Matt Gaetz was actually one of the co-authors of the MORE Act. So he's all in on it.
Right. But, 3 of them come out and admitted that they're voting for it, is what you're saying. That's pretty pathetic.
Well, 3 who have announced it. Whether others will sign on.
Sure.
Now, the political director over at NORML, a fellow named Justin Streekel, he said this is a big deal, and they watch this stuff very closely. He said, and I agree, it's our sincere hope that other Republicans will follow his lead. And this is part of what we're about here at Vote Pro Podcast. If you are in a district, and even if your congressman is Republican, don't assume that he's going to vote against the MORE Act. Don't assume he's going to vote for it. Don't assume a Democrat's going to vote for it. Get on a blower, go to the email, send them your comments, tell them to vote for the MORE Act. Now let's talk about what's in this act. MORE stands for Marijuana Opportunity. I think they just threw opportunity in there to make a word.
To make a word, right?
Yeah. Reinvestment and Expungement Act. First, it would simplify the registration. Then this is an amendment that they want to add to it. Now, there's a lot going on with this. It's basically ending the federal prohibition of marijuana. That's the centerpiece of the whole thing, and a long time coming. That's a biggie.
Will it take it off Schedule 1?
Well, I think it kind of obviates Schedule 1. I think, but this I'm not sure about. In other words, I think it kind of makes Schedule 1, the Controlled Substances Act, moot, because once it's declared legal, it's not covered under the control. If it's not a controlled substance, it's not covered by the Controlled Substances Act. So
they're not going to reschedule it. It's just going to unschedule
it. Yeah, it's going to make marijuana not a federal offense.
Yay!
Another thing it's going to do is it's going to expunge the records of people with simple possession. Now, the details of that, we could spend the entire show on that. We're not going to do that. Check out the MORE Act and read what's in it for yourself. But that's another important thing. One of the amendments that is being added is to allow research and to take the Justice Department basically out of the loop. That says the Justice Department can't intervene in the legal production, sale, and use of cannabis products. So there's a lot going on with this bill. Kudos to Don Young and Tom McClintock and Matt Gaetz for signing on to this. And let's see if we can get some other Republicans to join in.
And just to clarify, it does remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, because it won't be a controlled substance anymore.
Right.
So
well, I think not only we're going to see more Republicans get on board because it's the right thing to do, but I think also we're starting to get to the area where this is a criminal justice reform issue as well.
It is.
Not necessarily has to do with just marijuana.
It is.
I think this could do a lot to really help reform. And when I say that, I mean let's help our courts and our law enforcement deal with the drug issue better. And it's not only people, not just simple possession, nonviolent drug offenses, but people that are like either wasted or just a little crazy. You know, they're not criminals.
And I think as the MORE
this could
Act
help.
stands right now, there's some other stuff in there. As I recall, one of the things I remember is it does take it off Schedule 1, and it also allows, I believe, Veterans Administration doctors to prescribe it to veterans.
There you go.
That's huge.
Well, it's about time.
That's freaking huge. So,
well, you got to think. So many people live in states where medical marijuana is legal. A majority of Americans live.
That's true.
In states
right?
Where it's so. Why isn't the medical community embracing it and learning about it and learning to use it?
Because of the federal prohibition.
Right.
Right, but what we're seeing is more and more.
Well, because it's on Schedule 1, and Schedule 1 says it has no medicinal value. So why would doctors learn about it if it has no medicinal value?
Because it's legal medicinally. And,
no, I'm saying this
right, but the legality is out in front, obviously, of the medical profession. But I think you're right, Jay. I think this if it passes and it becomes law and signed into law, it's got to go through the Senate. It's got to go to the president. If it's signed into law, then they can write as many prescriptions. And when you consider veterans get most veterans get most of their health care benefits from the VA. And if the VA can't write a prescription from it, they have to go underground.
I think another one.
Well, so do you think right now the president's going to call Mitch McConnell and go, let this thing through? I want to on my desk because I want to sign it.
I don't think that's on his list of things to do.
I don't know. I think Trump right now might sort of want to champion weed. Right now, he's
what would that do to the election, Andrew? I wonder how that would impact.
I don't know. I mean, but right now there's so much turmoil in the election. So many, he said, she said, all that. I could see that maybe someone would go, oh, wait a minute, this is a no-brainer. Yeah, everyone will like me for this.
You would think, but that's again, we're coming from a place.
Yeah.
I think that'd be the quickest way to get all the Democrats
I'm
to
coming
oppose
from
it.
sitting in front of a marijuana leaf background.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that'd be the quickest way to get the Democrats to oppose legalization.
Well, the other big thing in the MORE Act is I think the Small Business Administration, there's some language in there about, lending and entrepreneurs
Banking?
being able to get loans and banking and so forth. So there's more to it. It's huge.
Right.
Do you think maybe that's one of the reasons it's not being legalized, because big business doesn't want it legalized?
Nah.
Because once they do, then small business will be able to get loans. Because right now, the only way you're going to get into this business is if you have cash.
That's true.
Not a lot of people are taking out loans.
There's probably an element of that. I would not discount it. I don't know if that's the main reason. I wonder. I would not discount moneyed interests trying to corner the market.
Influence. Right.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I think there's a pretty damn good chance it'll pass, the House, but I think the Senate's a whole nother ball game.
But if it does pass the House, though, it's not. It's certainly not going to go anywhere in the Senate if it doesn't pass the House.
That's right.
Right.
So,
and that would still be a huge step.
We'll take it one step at a time, and then we'll start.
Right.
And then we can start, bombarding our senators with, our petitions.
5 years ago, it never would have been taken up for a vote in the House.
Not a chance.
No, not a chance.
Well, that's
So
good. We'll see. We'll follow
You
that.
bring it up, and the rest of the, House members go, you're right.
Exactly.
What have you been smoking? And I don't need to answer that.
Well, this is, in America, where this is how we're dealing with marijuana. This is a very serious issue, and this is high on the news. Now, in Canada, they're dealing with it differently. In Canada, they just arrested 3 police officers for smoking weed that they confiscated while on duty. So no, they confiscated it and then smoked it while on duty.
While on duty.
Nice.
And how they got caught was they were texting each other going, well, that was some great weed we were smoking on duty.
Kidding me?
The other
Really?
day.
And they documented it.
Right. And I'm going, I get it. If I was a cop, I probably would have been one of those guys.
Well, I'll tell you what.
But they need to be kicked off the force because they're too dumb to be cops.
Yeah, that's
They're doing that.
Maybe demoted. I don't know about kicking
No,
off.
put behind the desk.
It is Canada, so cut them some slack. But
but just think, they're going to burn it, and it's like 10 pounds of this choice sensitive.
Well, I know.
Man, then they're going to miss a couple dudes, man.
True story, man. I mean, it happened to me twice in the 70s. I got pulled over at a little weed, and the cops just, I'll take that, put it in their pocket. We're like, come on, man.
Oh, man.
I mean, no ticket, no arrest, nothing. Just like,
no, and of course you're not going to say shit.
yeah, what are you going to do? Say, no, that'll be $50, dude.
I'm telling.
Yeah.
I was at a party one time, and there was a cop there, and people off to the side were like smoking some weed, and the wind sort of blew it, the smoke through when I was talking to this cop, and it was obvious, like, man, wow, that's some pretty strong.
Now,
weed.
is he on duty or off duty?
No, it's off duty, and he was at a party.
Right.
Because he was a friend of ours.
Right.
And he's going, oh, man, that smells good. Man, does that smell good. And I was going, man, they're kind of hiding, man. Is that uncool? Man, want me to go tell them to be cool? He goes, oh, man, it's all right. That's all right. So, just don't offer it to me.
Well,
I
wonder how often that happens.
No, I know a lot of cops they didn't give a shit. And they go, the only time I arrest people for weed is if they're a dick.
Well,
they're being cool to me, and I catch them, especially if they're kids. You go, man, some couple high school seniors, get them a joint. You scare them a little bit and let them go. You're not going to ruin the kid's fucking life.
Well, we had a party at my house a year or two ago. You guys were both here. And a good friend of mine is a cop who was here.
I remember.
And we were being extremely discreet. And someone on this panel, I wonder who, Andrew, had a vape pen. I mean, a simple vape pen.
Right. Well, how the fuck do you
we were
smell
all
vape pens?
passing the vape pen.
I can't even smell
Before the
a vape pen and
coronavirus.
say that's marijuana.
But,
there's no way if he smelled that, said it was marijuana. That was not
you know what I'm saying. He knew. Maybe he just saw it, but
Well, tough shit if he does.
You know
what's he going to do? Arrest you?
maybe
He's going to arrest his neighbor? Now, that would be
Well, I know it made him uncomfortable, and it made me a little
move.
uncomfortable, but it's so stupid. It's just
you got these guys. That's their job. I understand.
Yeah.
You'd be cool around. And most police
Yeah, but
officers
he's not on the job, so...
Well, he didn't do anything.
if you're not
I
on
mean,
the-
he wasn't going to arrest me or anything, but I did feel like I was putting him in a little bit of a weird situation. I mean,
he came
because
to
he's
your
a
house.
friend.
Cops do.
He came
but
to
although
your
in
house.
Maryland now,
True.
but now in Maryland, if a cop smells weed, they can't use that as grounds to search your car.
Right.
That's true.
And now more and more, I know in New York, they said when they decriminalized it, I was talking to some friends up there. They're going, oh man, you can't walk down the street without smelling weed now. Everyone is fucking just smelling weed in the open. They're going
it's true.
outside.
It's
You
true.
can go outside now and smoke weed.
My first trip to Denver after legalization, I was walking through the streets and, oh, there it is.
Yep, exactly. It's like that in D.C. now. You smell it on the street everywhere. I haven't been able to get out much lately, but no, before
And I can't say it's an unpleasant odor.
No, it's
I like,
wonderful.
I
Speaking
like the
of
smell of
that,
weed.
speaking of odor, I got a story here. We talk a lot about extreme, at least I do, the extreme overregulation in the cannabis biz.
Oh.
And how it is such a
Yes.
burden on the industry in so many ways, especially we talk about California. I've got a story here out of Marijuana Business Daily by Bart Shanneman. Washington state regulators are believed to be among the first in the nation to take a closer look at an issue that has bedeviled cannabis growers and sparked costly lawsuits targeting the marijuana industry. We did a story on this not too long ago. That is the odors that emanate from growers and processors. So the state is forming a marijuana odor task force, and it's seeking an outside expert to advise like regulators on the possible impacts of cannabis odors on human health. This is for real, guys. This is a real thing.
Have you ever been near a paper mill?
Yeah, are they going to...
Or you go across the bridge
slaughterhouse?
over to Eastern Shore of Maryland where they're raising chickens, and it smells like fucking shit all the time. It's awful.
Or how about the entire city of Pittsburgh?
Oh my God, there you go. Sorry, Pittsburghians.
and most of New York City.
Yeah.
Well, no, but we're talking about industrial. Like I know, I used to get my cousins who lived in Hopewell, Virginia. And there was the Capo, some kind of factory
it's
down
awful
there.
down there. It's a paper
James
plant.
River.
Yeah, it smells terrible.
And it was like, just really bad odor.
Now, what did the task force say about that?
Well, let's back up a little.
There wasn't one. Okay.
Yeah, right. No, they created a law. Just what you need: some more law and some more regulations for the pour industry, and they're to create this odor task force. Right. Just when businesses are already under so many freaking regulations in Washington, Oregon. Denver's not, Colorado's not quite as bad. California's just totally out of control. And there's such, in my opinion, this dichotomy, of legalization where on the one hand, you have these more progressive, liberal, largely states that tend to be more left-wing that are quick to legalize it. Great. Awesome. I'm all for it.
Right.
But at the same time, there's the people who have layers upon layers upon layers of regulation, which is just killing in the industry in so many ways, not allowing the little guy to get in. You got to have tons of money to get in the game. And on top of that, it just advocates and promotes the black market even more because
makes
the
the
competition
black market's
is
a lot easier to do business.
Right.
So you're saying that the liberals tend to overregulate.
Well, yeah.
And the conservatives are putting in regulations just to stifle it because they hate it.
Well,
they don't.
Difficult.
The conservatives aren't regulating; they're just banning it.
Yeah, right.
Right,
Which is Andy's point. It's the same thing.
They'll go. No, we'll legalize it, but you have to have 1 foot in the grave and $10 million in your pocket.
Well, here's the thing, too. This is so typical of government. So they created this law. They said we're going to go out and we're going to put bids out and we're going to get folks to bid on becoming our, whatever you want to call them, the task force. So they set aside a bundle of money. Well, they got 4 bids. The lowest bid was twice the money that they set aside for it.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. So it's on hold right now.
Your taxpayer dollars at
hard
work.
at work. So anyway, I think this kind of...
And what exactly is this task force supposed to do?
Well, they're supposed to...
close down businesses.
They're going to submit a report.
They're going to submit a report. They're going to go around and inspect legal growers and processors, and they're going to
take a little graft on the side
and do studies about what kind of impact that smell may have on the public. I mean, it's just silly. It's just more government regulation, more ways to raise money, more ways to...
And more opportunities for corruption.
And more importantly, it's more of a crutch on business. And that's really what these people do. They love to think up ways to make businesses pay more money to the government that they can spend on stuff. And
they don't like it, we'll just charge you for it.
I mean, it's terrible. And it's just so counterproductive.
You've really hit the nail on the head.
Especially to a new industry like the cannabis industry that's struggling so hard. So
it needs, I mean, this industry could flourish so
oh my
much
gosh.
in such a short time if the freaking government wasn't in the freaking way.
Well, what's interesting is when you see states that are less left-wing, where they have ballot initiatives go through that make it legal, then you get much less regulation, but you get what Andrew says. You get the right-wingers who want to find ways to slow it down.
Yeah.
So they take forever to get the regulations written, even though there may not be as intrusive as the left wing might be. The right wing has got a ball in the other court. They want to just stop it altogether. So anyway.
It's really amazing to me how much the cannabis industry is just a microcosm of politics and business in the era of big government. You know, it's everywhere you turn, it's just a great example after a great example.
Well, if like you just said, Phil, imagine if California, Washington, Oregon, these states just got out of the way and let the little guys come in, entrepreneurs come up with businesses. Of course, you have to have some reasonable regulation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some people will make money.
Right. We hate that.
Well, we can't have people getting rich.
So anyway, that's my soapbox for the day, guys. I just think it's becoming absurd in so many places. And, you know, I see a lot of folks who are business people who are, you know, in the cannabis business. And a lot of them, you know, come from, let's be fair, the left side of the aisle. I mean, that's of course. But they're beginning to say, man, come on, get off my back. Let me just, you know, make a living and do my thing.
Well, in the industry, I mean, they have, every company has someone who's a compliance officer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just nothing gets paid just to make sure that they follow the law.
And that's a huge part of the cannabis industry now.
And it's a huge part of every industry.
That's true.
Compliance and regulation.
Listen, I'm in a large construction, you know, commercial construction, and let me tell you, the amount of money in the last 10 years that we've had to spend on compliance, regulations, EPA, it's unbelievable how much paperwork for every job is just amazing. It would blow people away, especially if you do a government job.
That's right. Now, we've talked about it. Not only there's compliance, but then when you go to rent some space, and the landlord goes, "Oh, it's a cannabis company. Oh, that's not $9 a square foot. It's $18 a square foot."
Yeah. And is that justified, or is he raping you, or is it justified because he's got 3,000 layers of paperwork and stuff to do to meet the jurisdiction's requirements? That's the question.
The landlord?
Yeah.
The landlord doesn't have to do any extra paperwork, does he?
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. He may, and he may need extra insurance.
Is he providing more? Maybe more for insurance, maybe more for being bonded because it's a federally controlled substance. But, you know, it shouldn't cost you any more to raise marijuana than to raise radishes or corn.
Yeah, but I think the answer to your question, Andrew,
but to process it and.
I think the answer to your question is the free market takes care of that. Because if you want to go gouge somebody, guess what? There's somebody down the street that's going to go, I'll take half that because I'm still going to make good money.
Right. But my point being, the point I want to make is everyone thinks that if you get a license in the cannabis industry, it's a ticket to print money. I think, and what the reality is what we're seeing is no, the cannabis industry is not as easy as we thought it would be to make a big payday.
So true.
Well, I think you're absolutely right.
So true.
Even at that, it could still flourish with less interference from the government. But you're right. It's not as easy as people make it sound.
Okay, but the thing is that it's so difficult, but it's trudging along. And something that's very interesting, I have an article about this, and that's like, for example, what's happened in the industry the last 5 months since this pandemic has hit. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of proof is, man, the marijuana industry is fucking resilient.
Is it?
Yeah, no kidding.
It is.
No kidding.
Well, we've been hearing reports, and you've given a few reports that the pandemic has been pretty good for retail sales, at least.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, it has.
Can I ask you a question, Andrew?
Yes.
What? And you have a background, some experience in this. Let's compare two industries here: the cannabis industry and the restaurant business, which you are extremely familiar with. Why the restaurant business is getting killed by this, right?
Absolutely.
So why is the cannabis business booming because of it?
Well, for starters, the cannabis industry was categorized as an essential industry during the pandemic.
Okay, good
So
point.
they all stayed open.
Right.
The restaurant industry, food was essential, but not a gathering place as well.
Gotcha.
So your bar's closed. You can do carry out all you want, but no one can step foot in your dining room or your bar.
Well, that makes a certain sense.
I understand that, but that doesn't really address the point. The point is both businesses had to go to curbside delivery.
Right.
And-
Okay.
and-
The curbside, that's exactly what they're doing. And here's what's happening. Now, those were in the restaurant industry, especially. Those were two areas that were growing, and it was going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years. It was really going to be different than it was in 2019, and the pandemic just accelerated it. So in 2021, you're going to be seeing restaurants doing curbside pickup, contactless transactions, no cash, where they just it's ordered online, and then there's a knock on your door, and you open your door, and it's there on your curb.
Gotcha.
So the dispensaries won't have to deal in cash anymore.
Well, no, that's a problem. That's one thing.
That's one of the and I think
problems.
and I think this may be part of what the MORE Act will be addressing.
Yes, it
is making that allowable, because once it's taken off the Controlled Substances Act, there's no reason not to deal in with banking. So,
but to get back to the restaurant comparison, what I'm seeing is you're going to see a lot more delivery. Now, what happened in the cannabis industry? They quickly came out and said, "Yeah, you can deliver," because they were making people jump through hoops to get a delivery permit. And now they're telling everyone, everyone can deliver, go for it. So that's going to stay.
okay.
They're not going to take that away. I seriously doubt.
I think that's probably right.
And deliveries is obviously a big boom in the restaurant industry, because when cannabis hit, carryout sales before the pandemic were like 18% of all restaurant sales were carryout. Now it's like well into the 40s, almost 50% of restaurant sales are carryout.
Right.
Now they're predicting that it's not going to go back down. It might dip, but it's not going to go back down to the teens.
Wow.
No, it's going to probably go to like the 20s, 30s. And that's what you're going to see in the cannabis industry. It's the same. Delivery is not going to go anywhere. It's going to become, and more people are going to go, it's just so much easier
Right.
to have it delivered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a pizza.
Right.
And now, since I have to order online anyway, why do I have to go in?
Sure.
I went in before to talk to the bud tender and get some service, and they're educating me and showing me all the different stuff, and this is great. But if I just walk up to a little window and it slides through a drawer, like a bank, and I don't see anything, and can't ask any questions.
Well, in my mind,
so that's how it's going to change.
In my
It's
mind,
gonna
the
change
takeaway maybe it leads to the question: would this boom in cannabis business, dispensaries specifically, would that have happened anyway?
Eventually, I think it would have.
Not as quickly as it did. I think you're right.
But delivery was the thing. But remember what happened in Virginia. Remember that we had someone on the show, and they said that
Right.
it was a battle to get delivery permits in Virginia,
Right.
where now it's sort of a given.
Yeah, there are certain ways of doing business that were kind of on the fringes that have been forced to the mainstream because
That's
of
the point
virus.
Andrew's making. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
restaurants.
and the curbside service is one thing. The teleconferencing and working from home.
Right.
A lot of companies, as we've talked about, are like, no, but now that they have to do it, it's not. And I think the same thing with cannabis delivery. It's like cannabis delivery, you got to deliver. Well, yeah.
Well, I think what you're going to see in the cannabis industry is something you've seen in the restaurant industry. I know now you're starting to see restaurants that don't have storefronts. You've seen in pizza, there might be like Domino locations where you might be able to pick up, but there's no dining room.
Right, there's no
and
place to
there's
go
some
in.
location that is just delivery. They just run delivery out of it because the cost of setting it up. There's no dining room. No, you don't even have to interact with customers. I mean,
Right.
it's a lot cheaper to set
Smaller
up.
staff.
You're going to start seeing that.
I remember
You're gonna see
going
that-
to New Orleans years ago and was amazed that there were bars that you couldn't go in. You just order alcoholic
Right.
beverages to go. And
you go up to the window and you get a hurricane and you walk.
You get a hurricane and you walk around with it. So,
but what I think you're going to see in the cannabis industry are going to be delivery services that are going to start buying wholesale and be able to start their own brand.
Right.
So, so instead of just buying pre-portioned flour, they'll be able to buy bulk and portion it themselves.
Yep.
Which I think is a great little business model for a small operator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
especially in states where they're really spread out.
Well, now this is something that kind of connects the whole retail industry or the marijuana industry and this whole regulatory thing we were talking about. There was an investigation conducted recently into the Maryland, and this is our hometown, our home state, Maryland medical cannabis.
Speak for yourself.
The Maryland Medical Cannabis Commission did a study to see if there was any evidence of bias or undue industry influence or political influence in licensing applications for cannabis businesses in 2019. It was a review process. Former delegate Cheryl Glenn, who was heading the commission, and they found that there was no bias in Maryland's cannabis licensing award process.
Right.
So whatever's going on here, Maryland, in many ways. Now, aside from the fact that we still don't have adult use in Maryland, what they have been able to do. I know, but I'm saying that aside from that one little detail, Maryland has done. I don't know what you think, Andrew, but I think Maryland's done a pretty good job of being a kind of an example of how to do things right as far as legalization goes.
Yeah, well, it set up a very good medical marijuana program.
They did.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Excellent. And we did stories, Phil, not long ago. I did a story, and I don't remember what state it was, but lawsuits have been brought forth about exactly that subject, pay to play kind of thing. Remember?
Yeah. And that's
the point system and all that crap.
Right, and that's the kind of corruption or opportunities for corruption, put it that way, that we really so far haven't seen in this whole
Right. Maryland's impressive. I think.
Public-private partnership when it comes to the cannabis industry.
I think nowadays a lot of these regulatory boards, these state-run regulatory boards, are not corrupt. I think they try to do a good job.
I think you're right, Andrew.
Try to be fair. Now, are some people maybe give people a break or here and there? Probably that might happen, but I don't think it's institutionalized.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think so far Maryland has avoided the kinds of regulations that become the opportunities for corruption. And that one about the smell commission or task force,
mm-hmm.
that just. I'll tell you what that stinks of. That stinks of corruption. Yeah. Because it's a pointless regulation that people just have to get by, and the way you get by is not necessarily through compliance; it's through compliance.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Right.
Well, an interesting thing happened. I think it was in Massachusetts when the first permits came up for medical marijuana. A former, I don't know if it was a state senator or some kind of county executive or whatever. He applied for like 4 or 5 permits, which considering the circumstance, a lot of people were applying for multiple permits. Well, anyway, he got 3 of them accepted, and everyone went up and said, "Whoa, what the hell? How come he got 3 of them?" Because he's an ex-politician. As it turns out, they did this big investigation. What he did, he went and hired this consultant, and I forgot his name, but back in 2014, this guy was the shit. He hired this guy, and they looked through his applications. They went, damn, those are just great applications, man.
Really?
He got them because they were just they
well done.
Crushed it.
Yeah,
man. They were really the best people. They did all their homework.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens to it, and it's everyone's opinion. Now, could there be more minorities in the industry? Absolutely, but let's hope in the future. Let's build a industry where everyone has equal opportunity.
Absolutely. Equal opportunity.
I think some of the, there's also this situation where the jurisdictions, the states, they want to be fair, but at the same time, they don't want their system to fall on its face. And the way you avoid that is by looking to the people with the most money. They're least likely to fail. There's nothing a state wants more than to only give 5 licenses or 8 licenses and have 5 of them be little companies that fall on their face. They don't have the capital. So I don't know that it's corruption.
Virginia,
yeah, exactly. With amendment. But I don't know that it's corruption on the state's part as much as just due diligence and kind of making sure that the companies that are coming in aren't going to just fall flat in a year.
Right. No, and I think you're right about that. My point with the ideas of inviting corruption is these pointless regs.
Yes, exactly.
That's where
odor commission
that's where the layers and layers of pointless regs.
Right.
That's the where I have a problem. Now, there's another piece of legislation related to cannabis that's actually scheduled for a House vote next week, and that is the Medical Marijuana Research Act, and it is a bipartisan bill that is designed to streamline the registration process for researchers, and
that's huge.
Which is very big, and to expand the sources of cannabis available for the research. So for a long time, and I think it's still the case, Andrew, you probably know more about this, all of the research done on cannabis had to be from a single source.
In Mississippi or something, yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
And it was shit weed.
The Pot Farm, University of Mississippi.
Right.
So
it was like one or two strains, and it's just beach swag weed.
Right.
It's more hemp than it was cannabis.
Right, and the what you can get from that kind of research, we've pretty much gotten.
Right.
So if that, I don't know.
That was, I think, if you were a university or you were the federal government doing research, they had to use those. Now, I believe, with all these states being legal, universities can just go down to the dispensary and buy weed and use it for.
We did a story. Harvard.
Right.
Harvard said, we're just going down to the dispensary since it's legal in Massachusetts.
Right.
And buy it and if you don't like it, send a SWAT team. Right. Yeah, I'd like to see that videotape of a SWAT team to the lab in Harvard University Research Lab.
Well, I was thinking of something between that and a cease and desist order.
Right. Yeah, good luck
which they
with
just
that.
ignored. But this bill would preclude all of that.
That's great.
The bill, it would allow scientists to access cannabis directly from state legal markets. So places like Boston and or anywhere in Massachusetts where.
Well, just think about here in Maryland.
I can buy it legally for medical marijuana, then the researchers ought to be able to. And this bill covers that.
That's awesome.
Well, that's what I thought. And when I was looking to get into, I was looking to get a grower's license in Maryland, and I was thinking, God, someone could just be a grower and do nothing but grow cannabis for research for Johns Hopkins, UMBC, Walter Reed, the National Cancer Institute, Fort Detrick. Those 5 major multi-billion-dollar organizations would probably buy everything you can grow for research.
Yeah, but they still have to abide, I assume, by the limits set forth by the regulations in the state.
Well, I know, but I'll say they're all in Maryland. Maryland is like sort of a hotbed for research.
Right. I'm saying that they wouldn't get special treatment. In other words, how much weed are you allowed to buy in a month? As
a quarter pound.
Right. That would probably be their limit too at this stage, unless.
Well, no. If they're doing research, you can buy it all. You just set up regulations.
Once they re-regulate,
as much as you need.
Well, now there's also an amendment to this bill, which would stipulate that the Justice Department cannot interfere in their procuring medical marijuana as long as it's in compliance with research guidance. So, which I don't know, and I think it's up to the USDA, I believe, to issue such guidance. And that's something we covered in previous episodes, and we're still waiting for that to come out. But So we'll see where that goes.
Great.
It's
exciting. With some-
bipartisan bill.
There's some great legislation coming around, man.
So
Well, I don't know about you. I don't know about you guys, but I've been experimenting with marijuana for years.
Have you done some research of your own there?
really,
Yeah, I do. I have my lab coat, my clipboard.
well, as the guy on MythBusters used to say,
Love that show.
if you're not compiling data, you're just screwing around.
Yep. That's right. Well, I got a story here. Maybe we can finish up with
Actually,
this.
the other quote is, let me get this in. Research is what you're doing when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, right.
Have you been looking for a job in the cannabis industry? I've got an article here that's called The 5 Highest Paying Jobs in the Cannabis Industry and How to Find One.
All right.
So we'll start with number 5, which is a cannabis sales manager. As a cannabis sales manager, you stand in between the harvesters and the stores. And so your primary duty is a responsibility for both sales and production of a high quality product. And the salary is about $60,000.
Kind of a middleman, you might
Kind
say.
of a middleman. And then you've got the store manager. And obviously you manage a dispensary or possibly a group of dispensaries if they own such. And the salary there is about $80,000. They want you to have an MBA, okay? And they want you to have experience in retail in most cases.
An MBA to manage a retail store?
Well, it says here that you also have to know like the state laws. There's a lot to know. You have to know a lot. It's not like running a freaking, jean store, or whatever.
Not running an ice cream shop. Right.
You got to know what the state laws are, what the quantities allowed, how to keep track of people. There's a lot involved.
You have to understand compliance.
Yeah, so the salary is much higher than managing a typical retail store.
Oh, cool.
And then you got your cannabis consultants. As a consultant, you may be dealing with tax requirements, bookkeeping, obviously, and avoid mistakes with processing. And you have to know the regulations for each state, whichever state you're working in. And the salary for the consultant's about $100,000. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, and then
that's a real go-to kind of guy. You gotta have someone like that.
Number 2 is an extraction specialist. Okay, so if you are a person who likes manufacturing and has experience in the field, then you might consider becoming an extraction specialist. You have particular skills that are required. Obviously, you have to technically understand how the extraction works.
What kind of college degree would be needed for something
usually
like that?
They're paid very well to have the knowledge needed. You don't necessarily need a degree. As long as you have experience working in extraction.
Because you would have to know something about chemistry, would you
You
not?
would think.
Well, but if you have, what you need is laboratory experience.
Laboratory experience and knowing how to work the machines. And the number 1, and this is a dispense.
Let me guess.
All right.
It's a panelist on VoteProPot.
Yeah.
No, that.
Not according to my checkbook. No.
Yeah. I didn't get my paycheck for this week.
Number 1 is a dispensary director. If you want to make 6 figures working in the marijuana industry, having fun while doing so, and you love it, you can also apply for a dispensary directory of retail operations. This actually is the highest paying job in the industry. To become a dispensary director, you'll need an MBA, an experience in management, both in retail and being in the pharmacy background is helpful. And this would allow you to manage a chain of dispensaries, and the pay starts at about $125.
Right.
So
The thing that gets me is that they all require MBAs, and which is nice. I totally
it
get
doesn't
that.
say it requires them. It says it's very helpful.
Well,
They tend to. Employers
But the thing about what they're all what I'm hearing here is they're all looking for people with strong business backgrounds.
You're right.
Yes.
No, absolutely.
They understand. They can read a spreadsheet. They understand financing.
Why? I'll tell you why. It goes back to the story we did earlier. What sets this industry apart from other industries is the frickin' regulations.
The compliance.
They're so much more dense than your average retail, than your average industry. I mean, you have to.
So if you came from the manufactured plutonium.
Right.
That would be
you'd probably be in good
perfect.
stead.
In the weed.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
You might have to learn a little bit more about regulations, but yeah.
Well, folks, we're really glad you joined us today. Hope you had a good time. Well, I had a great time. You guys have a good time?
Oh, I had a blast.
And I hope you're enjoying Andrew's screen. It just got really groovy.
Yeah, man.
In the last few minutes. It's got all these little...
mushrooms are kicking in, dude.
These sparkly things going on, and I'm digging that. So I hope you guys are enjoying that. And if you did, send us a comment. Go on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. If you are watching us instead of listening to us, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you'll get notifications whenever we put up a new show. What else, Jay?
Send us an email. Let us know what you think of the show. Give us ideas for segments. Tell us we suck, whatever. Send it to...
Don't tell us we suck.
Well, if we suck, let us know.
All right.
No.
Email us at podcast@VoteProPot.com. And please go share us with a friend. Let a friend know about the show and how good it is.
Yeah.
And turn them on. Andrew, what do you got?
And how groovy Andrew's screen is.
Yeah, you like that?
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I had this infused beverage and I spilled it on my computer, and my computer's...
Your computer is high.
The edibles are kicking in. The other thing we need you to do, and this is something else we'd love for you to do, and that is to register to vote if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And get out and find the people who haven't registered to vote. And
beat the shit out of them. No.
No, help them out. Get them to vote, because you can do it online really easy.
No, I'm kidding.
And then you can actually sit away for absentee ballots nowadays or what have you. But still, just get out there and also, speak it up. Talk to all your friends, make sure they're registered. And if they're not, some people may be embarrassed about it. So don't ask them in groups. But when when you're talking to people, ask them one-on-one if you need help.
Sense,
Let's get you up there, And
it's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm. And other than that, we share a lot of information on our social networking platforms because we can't really discuss, can't even scratch the surface on this podcast. Even though we could talk for hours, but we got shit to do.
But thank God we're out of time.
Thank God we're out of time. Yeah, really. So anyway, go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, and do a search for Vote Pro Pot.